Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Happy Friday. And I think it is actually a happy Friday. We've got some major Supreme Court rulings, opinions that have been handed down today. And I want to get into those with my friends. Matt Marsden, Blaze TV contributor and actor and producer extraordinaire. You can find him at Matthew D. Marsden. That's Marsden for those Americans. It's You stop that.
Matthew
you stop
D.
that
Marsden.
right now.
Matthew D. Marsden.
I don't want to hear you talk like that.
Marsden,
It's
Sara
too weak.
Gonzales.
Oh, God, it's weird. Stop it. Matthew D. Marsden on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to him, along with Eric July, Blaze TV contributor and founder of Rippaverse Comics, which you guys all need to go check out at rippaverse.com. Also, you can follow him on YouTube, Young Rippa59.
That's me.
So make sure that you are subscribed to both of these gentlemen. And you can find me at AmericanBeautyBySarah.com. Go check out. We've got skincare. We've got makeup. We've got lipstick. Miss America is on my lips today. It can be on your lips too over at AmericanBeautyBySarah.com. So SCOTUS, I want to go through some of these cases with you guys. I was like, win? Oh, another win. Oh, another win. This is weird. Somebody pinch me. Am I dreaming? And so I want to go through some of these. And with this birthright citizenship decision that just landed today, I want to also get into the implications of the ruling, because it's very, very complex. It's very nuanced when you look at the decision that was made and what they said. So SCOTUS gave Trump this win with a 6-3 decision this was Trump versus CASA Inc., C-A-S-A, CASA Inc. And so you've got some good news. You've got some bad news. I'm focusing on the good news. So let's get the bad news out of the way. The ruling isn't necessarily about the constitutionality of birthright citizenship or any of these President Trump executive orders. It's not about whether or not it's constitutional. They're likely to address constitutionality in October in some other opinions. So wherever a lower court judge ruled in favor of the plaintiff suing the Trump administration, that is still in effect locally. But this ruling also held that lower courts cannot issue sweeping nationwide injunctions unless authorized by Congress, which, thank God, this is what we've been saying this entire time. You can't have a lower level court that says, no, President Trump, you're not allowed to do this throughout the entire country. That is not allowed. And what that means is that there will be no more legislating for the entire country from a lower court bench. Now, President Trump, of course, was very quick to come out at a press conference, take a victory lap, and rightfully so, because it's not just birthright citizenship that this affects. It's not just that executive order. It's so many others that President Trump has tried to implement. He was voted in to implement, and these activist judges have prevented him from doing so. And here's President Trump on not just this executive order, but all of these others that he will now be able to make some change on. Watch.
Some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now properly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people.
So you've got all of these other policies that President Trump mentions, funding for sanctuary cities, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary federal funding, stopping taxpayer funds for trans surgeries. All of these lower level judges had tried to prevent him from implementing these executive orders. So I just want to go through really quickly, and I want to get your thoughts on the precedents that this sets, guys. But just for the confusion on the executive order that is supposed to end birthright citizenship, which, by the way, as President Trump very, very, he just explained so well, this, of course, was not meant for illegals who are in this country. This was meant for slaves and the children of slaves. And when you take that's what's so dangerous about not understanding the context in which all of these documents were written. And so you had 3 different suits. You had the one at the heart of this recent ruling, Trump versus CASA Inc., that applied to plaintiffs Maryland, so the state of Maryland, Asylum Seeker Advocacy Project, and 5 pregnant women. And then you had Trump versus Washington, which had plaintiffs Washington, Arizona, Illinois, and Oregon. And then Trump versus New Jersey, which was filed in Massachusetts because Massachusetts joined New Jersey, San Francisco, D.C., and like 15 other states to sue. So after this ruling, his executive order ending birthright citizenship can be enforced in the 28 states not involved in these lawsuits. So Texas, Florida, any other state that was not mentioned here, we can actually enforce ending birthright citizenship. Dear God, not birthright citizenship. So I want to read some of this. We had Amy Coney Barrett writing the opinion, and then you had Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson dissenting. And so in Justice Jackson's dissent, she said, if courts do not have the authority to require the executive to adhere to law universally, compliance with law sometimes becomes a matter of executive prerogative, which is crazy. But I want to read you Justice Barrett's response to this. And I want you guys to tell me, it sounds a whole lot like Amy Coney Barrett is like, excuse me for my retarded coworker. Like, her response is just like, listen, I'm really sorry about my retarded coworker. She says, Justice Jackson skips over the part because analyzing the governing statute involves boring legalese. She seeks to answer a far more basic question. So, I mean, you guys tell me, it's like, oh, well, she doesn't listen. It's so boring legalese. She doesn't actually want to read it. She just wants to answer a far more basic question. And then she goes on to say, Justice Jackson would do well to heed her own admonition. Everyone from the president on down is bound by law. That goes for judges too. And then we will not dwell on Justice Jackson's arguments, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. We observe only this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. That was a beast mode. That's Amy Coney Barrett. Oh my God. I mean, she's like, listen, I'm sorry about my retarded coworker. She knows not what she does. If you would please just forgive. She's too stupid to understand. If you would please just forgive her for that, that would be great. Like, that's how I'm reading that.
No, it is. And look, I said this before. One of my very, very good friends went to law school with Amy Coney Barrett and said that she was by far, and he's a very, very smart guy who's done very well for himself. And he said that she's actually like a super genius. Now, I do want to, I want us to just look back a little bit at some of the decisions that the Supreme Court has had previously that we've been very frustrated about. And I think that what that has shown is that the Supreme Court, for whatever reason, I've said before, like sometimes they're too smart for their own good and they want to like delve into this legally and come up with, you know, it's like with a PhD now, to get a PhD, you have to come up with something new. It doesn't matter if something before was actually adequate. You got to come up with something new. And I do feel like that has got into academia and has kind of bled over a little bit into Supreme Court. But you've never seen the Democrats ever come across like you'll have something that's like universally passed, right? We had something recently that was 9-0 that is just very, very obvious. It's very, very obvious, like, you know, but when it comes to towing the line, the Democrats do it every single time. And again, what you're looking at there, which is a junior justice as well, who doesn't normally do the opinions.
Well, that's because she gets bored with the legalese.
but it's basically Amy Coney Barrett slapping her down, saying, "Really, you don't know what you're talking about. You should like." Even for her, like, reflect on it a little bit. Unfortunately, we have put people in that are genuinely trying to interpret the Constitution from a Republican side. And I think that you've got, as they've done all across the board with the federal judges that have been appointed and anything that Biden or Obama put in, they're political. They're political. We aren't political.
Yeah.
And that's why we lose such a lot, actually.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And I mean, well, because I think that, you know, when you look at, I know Eric talks about this a lot, when you look at the way that liberals think and the way that they come to all of their conclusions, like they're not analyzing things. They're not looking at statistics. They're just like, well, it feels bad or it feels good. And that's how they're making their decision. And so you've got people who would typically be conservative who are like, we need to follow the law. We need to follow the Constitution. We need to make sure things are done properly. And that's not what liberals want. They just want what feels good or what feels right. And it really doesn't matter what the precedent is. It doesn't matter what the Constitution says. It doesn't matter what any of that says, because it's just all about their feelings rather than the actual merits or the facts ahead of them. And I mean, you're right. It is very frustrating at times to just be like, why don't we have that? Because there have been a couple rulings where it's been like, really, guys?
Yeah,
you couldn't come through for us on this one. And so it is frustrating because you do have all three of those mentally ill women on the Supreme Court, those liberals who are always in lockstep against everything conservative. Or seemingly conservative. Really, it's just constitutional.
It's not conservative.
It's constitutional.
It's interpreting the Constitution.
Yeah, just constitutional.
Well, I think that's more or less the issue with how. Look, this is a fundamental problem that is really unique to America. This is not to say that legal issues don't exist all around the world, but what's specifically unique about America is how litigious it is, how law in itself is. It's not there. And even no matter how explicit that it is and what it states, and any rational person would come to the conclusion of what that is, there's always like a counter law that, or even a counter opinion in the sense of a Supreme Court, that they can, even no matter how far they have to reach, they'll reach to try to say that, well, this actually goes against X, Y, and Z, and therefore, our opinion is the correct opinion. Mm-hmm. This isn't something that is unique to the Supreme Court. This is top to bottom in America, particularly with leftists. You brought this up, Sarah, excuse me, and how, I'm always talking about how, again, the left is really, really dirty in that they don't really care about that stuff. These are all things that I think typically leans right in terms of who values law, who values what's already in the books, who values especially like constitutions and what, at least in some capacity, in what it says, though there are the exceptions to the rule. For them, it's a matter of, okay, I have a place that I want to be. Mm-hmm. How can I bend and twist the law to get me there?
The ends justifies the means.
Exactly. Yeah. So even if it doesn't make sense, do I believe that if you're talking just by the books, is Ketanji Brown probably less smart than what Amy Coney Barrett is? Yeah. But I don't think that has much to do with why she's coming to the conclusions that she's coming to. It's because she's more so worried about the end game more than anything. And she's just simply doing whatever she can. And oftentimes that stuff doesn't make sense because they understand that it doesn't have to. Well, in this case, they didn't have enough to at least influence that. But for the most part, at least if you understand their playbook, they don't care about any of that. It's like, again, the ends justify the means. So I'll get there. And it's probably not even going to make sense. I'm going to be a real weasel about it, actually, in order for me to get there. But I will figure that. That's where their education benefits them. That's where their smarts actually are. It's more so trying to justify whatever bull crap that they want to advocate as advocates rather than following the law by the books or the Constitution or anything.
Yeah, but have you considered how dumb it would make someone to not know what a woman is?
Well,
she couldn't tell you. She couldn't tell you in her hearings.
Tell you doing those.
She couldn't tell you.
That's to your point, though.
Right?
That's to your point.
No, I know. I know. It is. It is.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you want to look back at the first Trump administration, the fact that we got, it was 2 Supreme Court justices on there.
Yeah.
If it went the other way, man, we would never win. Right, we'd never have one of these where they go, do you know what? I'm agreeing with these guys. It would be whitewash.
Or where they'd say, you know what? I am really concerned whether or not this is constitutional. Like, that's not what their concern is. To your point, that's not what their concern is at all.
No, and but it is really frustrating because, you know, as you said, it shows how dirty the left is, because we're like, hey, listen, all we want is a equal footing. You know, we just want a level playing ground, and the marketplace of ideas. I've been saying it forever. Like, you got to forget the marketplace of ideas when you're dealing with commies, right? And these are communists. That's what they are. They want the destruction of the United States. They want, actually, the first thing they want is the destruction of the family unit, right? And they've been working on that forever. So we've got to change our mentality when we're dealing with this. Unfortunately, again, when it comes to Supreme Court, you do want impartial people in there that are just going to want to interpret the Constitution the way it should be. So again, it kind of screws us, right? It does. Wanting what is right is a disadvantage to us.
Well, that's, I think, the problem with how far away from just even if you refer to the document, like in the actual Constitution, you're so far removed from, or let's say this, there's a lot of laws that are in the books. Hell, there's even a lot of things that the Supreme Court has gotten wrong over the years that they're still setting precedent. I mean, look at, again, Roe v. Wade and how long that took, because they screwed up initially. So yeah, that's what you're dealing with. And unfortunately, or at least I believe, that a lot of this stuff shouldn't even make it up to them. Yeah. Right. A lot of the basic stuff that they deal with. But when you have so many laws in the books, right. And again, often a lot of them work, again, they're diametrically opposed, right? And which is why the Supreme Court ends up ruling and stuff in the first place. Because, like, well, we had this law, but we also had that law. Well, they're interpreting it this way, they're interpreting it that way. Okay, we're going to have all these appeals, blah, blah, blah. It's going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and then they're going to be the ones to make the ultimate decision. But I think that speaks to the legal issues and how far removed you are from your beloved Constitution, that it's even coming up for dispute right now. If this was something that the Supreme Court, or even all the laws that are in the books, no matter what level, lower level, high level, courts, state, local, it doesn't matter, federal courts, if they were actually caring about that document, we wouldn't even have all the gun laws that are in the books, or that are in the books right now, that are actual crimes. The National Firearms Act is still a thing. Why?
Right.
Why? It's one of the most criminal laws in the books, but it's still a thing. And I think that's the core issue, which is why I'm such a big advocate of, like, looking at things in, like, the more decentralized lens, because I'm like, there's so many other issues that we need to address. I don't think it's I'm not saying it's not worth it to start dealing directly with, like, federal government, but I think that if we could just take care of business here, it won't get there.
Sure.
You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
No, it does. Before we got to go to break, I do want to mention this. Pam Bondi pointed this out in the press conference that the Trump administration held with all of these rulings. I thought it was crazy. She said 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions filed against President Trump came from Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, California, Washington. That's it.
Of course they did.
That's it. Five districts. 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions came from those 5 districts. I mean, that tells you all that you need to know about the way that they are using lawfare against this president because Orange Man bad. Well, apparently that is stopping now. So let's go to break, and I want to go through a couple other, remember I said there were major decisions, plural, not singular. So we'll get into some of these other ones after the break. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor is there for those of you who've reached Matt's age. Yeah.
35.
Forever and ever. Same. And so the Relief Factor is there for those of you who, you know, you live in constant pain. Maybe it's neck pain, knee pain, back pain, whatever the pain is. The point is that it affects every facet of your life. Maybe you're a little bit grumpier with your kids or your spouse, and you just don't have the patience you used to because you're just walking around with nagging pain. Let Relief Factor try to get you out of pain, because what it is, it's an all-natural anti-inflammatory. It's very, very potent, and so it addresses the root cause of your pain, which is likely the inflammation in your body. Matt has used it, actually.
I do.
He's used it with he has used it with success. I've used it with success. There are so many people in this building who have used Relief Factor and found that it has either totally diminished their pain or just greatly reduced it to where it's not affecting them the way that it was. Try the 3-week quick start over at relieffactor.com. Go get that 3-week quick start at relieffactor.com. All right, one of these other Supreme Court decisions, opinions that came down today, had my organization, Texas Family Project, just hooting and hollering and jumping for joy on. This was Mahmoud versus Taylor, and it involved the right for parents to opt out of LGBTQ lessons in public schools. Now, you read that sentence, right? You hear me say that, and you're like, to Eric's point, how in the world did this get up to the Supreme Court? You mean someone actually was like, yeah, we should fight parents being allowed to opt out of a lesson in public schools?
Well, hang on a minute. Why are they in public schools in the first place?
Again, that's
What?
the type of stuff I'm talking about, right?
Well, yes, correct. But it's like, so how did we get to the point where it's already crazy that it's in public schools in the first place? On top of that, you're telling me that you guys are fighting about the fact that parents don't want their children to learn that, and you took it all the way up to the Supreme Court. That's crazy. So it was another 6-3 decision with the typical dissenters. Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, this whole case was about the Montgomery County Public Schools added LGBTQ books to their required reading list. Of course they did.
Where's the Montgomery? Like, which Montgomery? Like, no way that's Alabama. There's no way that made it way down.
Let's
there.
see. Yeah.
Let's
see.
That would be pretty.
If the producers in the control room could help me out and look, that would be great.
Because that would be insane that something like that even got to that point.
Yeah,
you got a lot of work you do if it's there.
It's absent parenting. We say it over and over and over again. People send their kids off to school.
Yeah.
They're not engaged in the kids' lives.
Yeah.
For the most part, there are two people working. So, they don't
I believe
have
this is Maryland.
Maryland. All right, that made, I'm about to say, I'm like, there's no way they made it all the way to Alabama.
I came up with that, by the way. That was me. It was Maryland.
I was about to say like that. We got a lot. I mean, to be fair, though, Texas had its sort of issues as well. So it's not impossible that it makes it to a very red, a state that this ridiculousness is in. I know, Sarah, you're on the ground seeing a lot of craziness that's going on. So that doesn't surprise me at all. But man, like what a weird, it just feels like everything has accelerated so fast.
Well, let me just add some context because it gets even crazier than it was added to the required reading list. The school initially allowed the parents to opt out of this. Actually, they were opting out of all sexuality instruction. So put that in quotes.
The schools should not be involved.
No, of course not. But listen, too many parents decided to opt out. So the school district was like, well, hold on a second. Too many of you guys are opting out. So now we're not going to let you opt out. And we're going to classify this as literature. And so it's not sexuality instruction. It's just, quote, literature. And so now you can't opt out. Like they were actually mad. They were actually mad.
Well? Is it because a lot of the time, again, it goes up to the federal government because the federal government will say, if you have this, we will give you X amount of dollars, to push it.
I'm sure that has something to do with it, or organization, or that's how it works. That's how it's always works. It works like that in university. So that wouldn't surprise me at all if there was some attendance stuff maybe tied to money. But they could just be evil, and it just has a lot to do with influence. And they realize that a lot of people are opting out, and they're just like, well, we don't have enough kids that we want to indoctrinate. We need to make an adjustment. That to me wouldn't be as surprising either. It just shows how evil and screwed up that they are. But man, it just think about that and how like 10 years ago, I don't think this is even a discussion that we're having, that this sort of weird stuff is even has infested your education system as much as it has. Yet here we are. And this is what I'm always talking about, particularly with parents. You hit it right on the head there, and that they're not being involved. And in a lot of cases, they don't even know half of the stuff that's being pumped in this, because it's like, again, it's a daycare, a glorified daycare. And so they're going to do their thing. Sometimes it's work, or the other times it's whatever they want to do, and they're just dropping them off. And whatever happens after that happens, and they're not as involved. And that is unfortunate. They're expecting and anticipating that other people are going to be responsible for raising their kids. And that's how you get kind of what they get. You remember that even when the whole Florida thing happened with the misanalyzed, or whatever you want to call it, don't say gay bill, and you had all these gay teachers, I guess is what they were, griping about and going to the news about, well, I don't like the fact that I can't talk to these children about like what me and my husband or significant other did over the weekend. A gay teacher that
me
is,
and my
right?
gay lover did.
Right. So again, that's not a story about America that I'm just making up. That actually was a thing. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you talking
to
to kids about this anyway? In any capacity? Why would that matter?
Can you think of any teacher that you had growing up
Never
that you knew about their personal
Never.
life?
It used to be like kind of a weird thing that you see them at the grocery store or something. I didn't even think when I was a kid. I didn't even think my teachers had a life outside of that building. Like it was like, wait a minute, what are you're not in the school? What are you doing? And I'm thinking
you're a teacher. You're supposed to be there all the time.
All the time, right? You're supposed to be there all the time. So yeah, that amazes me that it got that bad, but that's what happened. Look, the youth, they unfortunately they're the vessel, or rather the vehicle, to try to normalize their bad behavior. Mm-hmm. They've lost a lot of us, and they understand that. But it's easier. Kids are more impressionable. You guys understand that. And they understand that they can make great leaps if they can just plant those seeds with those youngsters. And sure, it might not manifest itself immediately, but this is a youngster that becomes on your side. They're not going to be kids their entire lives, obviously, and they're going to be a lot more empathetic and sympathetic to your lifestyle. That is what they want, and that's why they are so aggressive in pushing this nonsense in the education systems.
What I also think is so crazy is that, I mean, the whole suit was about freedom of religion. Right, because it was religious organizations that helped sue because they said, well, if it goes against these families' religion to teach this stuff, then you can't teach it. To me, I hear that. And while that is absolutely 100% true, I'm also thinking, well, hold on. Just be like, what about the atheist down the road who doesn't necessarily have a religion? They don't believe in God, but they also don't want their kids learning about butt sex.
Right.
Like, they don't have a right to also opt out. Like, it's crazy to me that we've even taken it this far that you have to argue freedom of religion. You can't just say like, hey, actually, you like if a parent doesn't want their kids learning about anything, any of it, they should be allowed to take their kid out. They should be allowed to opt out. I mean, we're paying this.
Yeah, but
you're paying for the school.
But here's the thing: the difficulty. Again, one of the reasons you're talking about how people relate to other people, like kids and impressionable. They look up at these, very often they're people that are taking the place of their parents because their parents aren't engaged.
Yeah.
So it's very confusing for a young child when someone is being kind to them and being in an authority figure in their lives to disconnect the life, because what you're trying to say in effect is like, oh, miss whoever it is, they're nice people. So why are you going against their lifestyle? Like, why are you the mean one?
They're too young to even process all of that. Right?
They just can't discern that. And so that's why it's like massively insidious to do something like that, especially with very young kids. And again, look, there are, nobody's casting aspersions over gays, right? Like, we all know gay people. It's not, that isn't the issue with the actual person. But what you have to really look at is,
well, it is the issue if they want to talk to my kids.
Well, this is the point. This is where I'm getting to, is like, if you look at groomers and the amount of people that go into those jobs that are groomers, and I can say this as a Catholic about Catholic priests, right? Is that what you have to do is look at, like, why are they going into that particular job?
Right.
And why are they pushing these things? Is it just for them to be more accepted, or are they grooming them? And this is a real conversation that we have to have, because we'd say it about anyone. I'd say it about someone straight talking to my young daughter about that. I'd be like, oh, whoa, hang on a minute. Like, this is inappropriate for you. It is inappropriate that you talk to my children about sex, whether you're straight or whether you're gay. I don't give a shit. I am going to give you the context of which, give my children the context in which I want to talk to them about sex, which is in a Christian family within the context of marriage. At the appropriate time that I deem, because I know my child, and kids are at different levels of maturity. but all of this, and again, this goes to as well the influence of social media and all these other things that are basically ripping these decisions out of the hands of the parents.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me too is that the pass that particular special interest group, the Alphabet Mafia, has received when it comes to talking to young children about sexuality.
Look, they are making books, okay, that are really explicit, okay, that have like oral sex and all sorts of weird shit.
That's what I'm saying. Like if it was heterosexual
we'd
sex,
be like, oh, you getting a wood chipper too. Like,
oh,
you
1,000%,
1,000%.
1,000%. But so would they.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
Yeah.
They would be appalled if some straight man was going and telling kids that he liked to have heterosexual sex with his wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
They would all be like, "Oh my God, what a groomer!"
It's not even that; it's marriage. If you say no, it should be, sex should be saved for marriage. Oh, there's this huge uproar. Like, don't you put your values on me and blah blah blah. So it's clearly there's an agenda there. And by the way, guess what? When they said that gay marriage was just going to be gay marriage and that was it. It wasn't going to do anything else.
Wasn't a fallacy.
Here we are.
There was no such thing as slippery slope. I remember that conversation like it was yesterday, man. Us having that during the Obama administration. And we were like, yeah, man, there was a lot of people, some of them religious, a lot of them. I was arguing from the standpoint of this is going to get ugly because you're giving more power to, whether you know it or not, you're giving more power to the government and how they're for a subject matter that should never have been left up to them in the first place. Like with marriage, that shouldn't have been their thing, that they're defining what it actually is. Yeah. You didn't like just make this some equal footing. No, what you did was you empowered the state to be able to reclassify what that means, the benefits that you get from it, and all of that good stuff. That was what I was arguing from during the Obama administration. And you had a lot of other people arguing again, coming to the same conclusion, but albeit for just a slightly different reason, more so saying if you green like this, you're green. It won't be too long to where we're talking about other stuff as well. And they're like, you're crazy, man. You're just some old religious nut.
It's not only about that, though. It's about multiple different laws.
Yeah.
Right? If you start changing the definition of something that is,
Oh, yeah. You fundamentally change everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything's on the table to change then.
Yeah,
and
you're
it's
right.
Problematic.
I agree with that 100%.
All right, let's go ahead. We got to take another quick break here, and then I want to get into this next ruling that, I mean, you talk about a good day for protecting children. It was a really good day for protecting children in this country. First, I want to thank our sponsor, speaking of protecting children, Preborn. So it's actually been 3 years since Roe versus Wade was overturned. But what you may not know is that abortion numbers have surged to a 10-year high because the battleground has shifted from the courtroom to our homes because they're being given the abortion pill. These women are just being mailed, in certain cases, they're just being mailed the abortion pill. They take it in silence, often alone. And here's the big issue with that, other than the obvious. 11% of these women who take the abortion pill are not told about the risks that they might, that they face when they take this alone at home. And then they're suffering serious health complications. And so when you give to Preborn, you're not just saving a baby, you're saving a mother too. And Preborn has already rescued over 350,000 babies. There are so many more that need our help. So here's the deal. They're showing these women real, true, just fact. This is your baby on ultrasound. Here's your baby's heartbeat. And in that moment, that woman is twice as likely to choose life rather than what happens at Planned Parenthood. So ultrasounds cost money. $28 is the cost of an ultrasound, but you're saving a baby's life. So how many ultrasounds can you fund? How many babies' lives can you save? You can donate securely over at preborn.com/Sarah. That is preborn.com/Sarah. All right, next up on the Supreme Court decisions, this is personal, okay? This was the state of Texas. So our very own Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton.
Whoop.
Yep, and our legislature's decision to require age verification for pornography websites. And so the Supreme Court sided with Ken Paxton and the state of Texas in a 6-3 decision. You had the usual suspects dissenting. It's Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan. We're like, we really want children to have access to porn. Well, sorry, not here in Texas. And of course, you had Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who I was like, I was texting, I was like, can he come on today, please? They said, sorry, he's got a fundraiser that he's doing in that time. And I was like, oh, what a great day for him to have a fundraiser. People be like, okay, how much money do you want? We need you in the Senate. And so the whole argument was obviously that kids have too easy of access to these pornographic websites. And the First Amendment obviously can still limit lewd behavior. I mean, this is the type of thing that we deal with over at Texas Family Project, which, by the way, please sign up to get more information of our newsletters and all of that over at TexasFamilyProject.com. We are fighting this still in the state of Texas. As you can see from the decision that we had to go to the Supreme Court to get, as you can see from the videos that we put out, where it's like you don't have the First Amendment does not give you the right to sexualize children. It just doesn't. And so Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the decision, and he said, adults have no First Amendment right to avoid age verification, and the statute can readily be understood as an effort to restrict minors' access. Any burden experienced by adults is therefore only incidental to the statute's regulation of activity that is not protected by the First Amendment. So obviously, you can't be like, oh, I'm an adult. I don't want to have to put in my birthday. I mean, that's all that this is. It's age verification. That's it. And you had Pornhub leave Texas over this because they said they couldn't implement it. They didn't want to, or it was going to be too expensive, whatever they decided. They didn't have enough pornographic videos, I guess, to fund it. And so they're like, we can't possibly do that. That's too restrictive. Really? It's too, you as a company don't want to make sure that children aren't seeing these graphic images and videos? Oh, right. That's right. I forgot. You're a porn company. So what do you care? So we've got a big, big win here. I'm so proud that our state has such a strong attorney general. And it's not just Ken Paxton. It's his entire office. He has so many rock stars working there arguing this case. And now we have this particular decision on the books as well. You may not just give children access to porn because you're too lazy or too evil to put up an age restriction. An age restriction or an age verification should be a bare minimum to this.
Well, what I want to know is if it's such a huge barrier, why is it that we have them on these, restrictions, age restrictions on every gun site you want to go into? Like, yeah,
or beer or anything.
Yeah, and they're not making the kind of money that Pornhub and these other places are. So.
Well, also you can't, what are you going to view there that's going to harm you on these websites?
Yeah, I mean,
if you have a credit card, you can order something, right? Yeah, well, right. Like you can't order a gun without going through background checks.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I mean, their argument is ridiculous, and I do have to say, I love Ken Paxton, man. Like again, I wish he was. Every time we say this, though, it means we're going to lose him.
I know.
Which is really,
he is going to win.
He's going to win the Senate.
Yeah,
he is going to win the Senate, but it would have been great to have him in Pat Bondi's position. I hate to say it.
I feel like there would have been a lot more action and a lot less Fox News hits if we had Ken Paxton as Attorney General.
Yeah, he's a doer, isn't he? You know, I mean, we love his office there. They're terrific. They're rock stars from top to bottom over there. So who's going to replace him is the question.
Yeah, it is. I love him, and I love that he quite frequently, like today, he can't do hits because he's not messing around. He's out there actually working. So anytime that we can actually get him on, I'm always so grateful for the time. It's crazy how you're the Attorney General of an entire country and you have so much time to do so many TV hits. So crazy how that works out.
Like I said, I wasn't fond of her when she was first. Look, I've been talking about Pam Bondi for I don't know how long, but as far as the subject matter, it is one of the more kind of. It's a thing that you would believe already would be
in place.
Yes.
But even from the company standpoint, right? Like not from even like some government enforcement.
Right.
Yes, like you as a company. Why
would
earth?
You not want to do that?
Why wouldn't you want some sort of, okay, guys, we don't want minors, okay, on this website. This is strictly for adults, and we'll just do whatever we need to do to put it in place. Look, not everything's going to be just absolutely concrete. There may be some people that are going through very, very great lengths, but we can at least do what we can, right, to ensure that the user base are adults. You shouldn't need the Supreme Court. You shouldn't need the state government. you shouldn't need anybody to tell you to do that. That should be something that's done on your own, right? If you are just
you telling me that porn sites are not moral?
Clearly they are not, and I think that's where you look to when you see something like this. I'm thinking less government, and I'm looking more like, what kind of absolute heads do they have running the show over there that they're like that arrogant? And I get it. The people are going to make their argument, be it, I know they, from their perspective, they made the argument for, you know, a lack of privacy. They've made the argument for the expenses that are associated with doing something like this. Is the argument that they're coming from. How exactly, especially with how much has been, I speak on this as a guy who runs our own site. No, not a porn site, excuse my language, but you get what I'm saying. We have devs and there's all sorts of things that you're always doing that can be automated.
Glad you clarified that.
Right. That it can be automated, right? Well, no, I'm just saying like a high user base.
Yeah.
Not as nearly as high as theirs, but you get what I'm saying. But there's a lot of stuff that you can do with that to kind of automate a lot of the process that would, it's what was expensive. I'm bringing this up because what was expensive 10 years ago isn't anymore, especially with regards to something like this. There's all sorts of different various applications and stuff that could be basically on autopilot. Now, it doesn't require a lot of money and resources for you to implement something. You may have to have some dev work that's going to be involved, but it's going to be ultimately a nothing burger. You're probably going to make that money back in a second, whatever you spent on that dev work that's involved.
If you think about how big Texas is,
right,
and they're just like, no, we're out.
Yeah,
like, economically, that's a crazy decision.
Right, good point.
So it's not about the money.
Yeah, that's a good
It can't
point.
be about the money.
Yeah, I mean, of course not. But I mean, I think it's exactly what you guys were talking about with the schools.
Exactly.
We want to get them while they're young.
Yeah.
If we get them while they're young, we've got a lifelong porn addict who's going to continue coming back to our website.
And look, man, it's bad. I mean, hell, you can go even on some of these other websites that are like the Instagrams of the world, which are, I mean, some of the stuff that they put out there is borderline. Anyway, like I believe all of these damn sites, as far as I'm concerned, need some sort of age restrictions from X to Instagram to all of it, because
X is one of the worst, honestly.
Oh, dude, it's
got bad.
It got worse when Elon took over.
Bad,
yeah,
dude. It is bad. No youngster should be on that site, anywhere near that site, because it's bad. But no, I'm bringing that because you brought up the addiction and where a lot of that some of that stuff starts, because you're having these youngsters that are being exposed to this stuff at a very, very, very young age, man, and it's everywhere. Like I said, it's not just on it's a pornographic site. You expect that, but even on these other sites, which are just social media, right? General social media, there's a lot of foul stuff that's out there as well, and that's where you come in. You've got to do what you can to protect these youngsters, man, and it's even far more difficult than what it was back in the Gap. Like, you have a massive responsibility to try to keep your, more so you're preserving the innocence of your child, and everything external is kind of working against that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why my 12-year-old is begging me for can I please have a phone? Can I please? And I'm like, no. But all my friends,
so
not
what?
my problem.
Right.
I don't care. I mean, I won't even, his friend, the problem then becomes policing when they're with their friends.
Right.
What do they, and so it's like, he wants to go play outside, and it's like, okay, well, you can go play outside. If one of your friends whips out a phone and wants to play with it, or an iPad or whatever, you got to come back in. And we have games, and it's not like I'm like, oh, go up to your room and do nothing. But I'm like, sorry, but that's just, these are my rules. I'm sorry, your friends have bad parents. It's like kind of where I'm at with it. And, I even get some argument from people who, these videos that we put out of just the disgusting stuff that we're finding at these pride festivals or if I'm cursing or whatever, and people are like, oh, you're the vice president of Texas Family Project and you're putting that on social media. I'm like, if you think that children should be on this platform, you're the crazy one, not me.
Right.
I'm not letting my children on this platform. You shouldn't let your children on this platform either. And if you do, that's on you. That's not on me. This is an adult website. What are you doing allowing children access to it?
No, 100%. And I think that, as you know, Sarah, the school that my kids go to,
Yeah.
again, this is what's really frustrating. I just want to bring it back to like Elon Musk coming out and saying, we need bigger families, we need this. The amount of money that it costs you if you want to raise your children in the right way with a big family is colossal, because you can't send them to a regular school. You can't do it. So the school that my kids go to, it's a private school. It's a Christian school, and they have a social contract with the parents, as you know, that says none of the kids there can have social media. That's it.
Yeah.
And they certainly can't take the phones into the school.
Right.
They might have them like, one of my kids has a Gab phone, right? So that we know where they are, because when you're dropping them off here, there, and there, you got to be in contact with them. But unless we start doing this, and again, we go on about this, we talk about participation in elections, we talk about participation in our kids' lives. That's what we need.
Yeah. Amen. All right, we've got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Well, it's Friday, and it's been a week of talking about Zohran Mamdani, who is the Democrat primary candidate in New York City, and for mayor, I should say. And I'd like to just play just how kooky and crazy this guy is. I would like to just play for you what he says about the definition of violence. Watch.
Oftentimes, we've even found as legislators, when we go into these courts, the term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages. Violent crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and there happens to be a housing unit in that same dwelling. So violence is an artificial construction. And we have to be very clear that what is happening here with these district attorneys, that is violence. That is violence of the highest degree.
Violence is just a social construct.
This guy's a communist, man.
Yep.
He's the worst. He's the scum of the earth. These types are the most evil pieces of crap over the course of human history. And like I said, America, you have a fundamental problem. If one of your biggest cities has a guy that's an admitted and open socialist that gets to run freely, we're screwed, man.
If it's a social construct, why is he saying it's there?
Because it's whatever you want it to mean, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But yes, he's a communist. But also, I'm sorry. I'm just going to say he's come out and said he wants to globalize the Intifada. And it's like, boy, the New York city that was, 25 years ago that got hit so hard by radical Islamists. I don't know how they would feel about the fact that now you guys are trying to elect a guy who wants to globalize the Intifada. It's pretty crazy to me. This is supposed to be the city that it's like what people think of when they think of America. Yeah. I mean, you tell me.
Yeah, no, it was.
You tell me.
I remember when I very first drove into Manhattan, I was like, this is it. This is the greatest country in the world.
Yeah.
That's what it represented to me. It was amazing.
And now we might have, a Muslim communist?
What in the hell is going on?
It's so crazy. Please, I know, New York, you guys are crazy. But are you that crazy? Prove us wrong. I'm just asking. See you Monday.